Hi, everybody. My name is Bill Trautman. If you don't know, I am your algebra instructor. This is the week 5 midterm help. So what happened is, since this course is so new, it's the first time we're actually teaching this version of the course. We had different versions, and this is the new version of the course, and the first time we're teaching it. I thought homework 5 and quiz 5 were required because I see them in WebAssign. But they're not in the grade book, so you do not have to do week 5 homework or week 5 quiz, or the end of module assessment. However, there are 5 questions on the midterm that deal with week 5 homework. So I really recommend doing it. In fact, I already posted a video for the week 5 quiz, even though you do not have to do it. But if you watch that video, 5 of those problems are on the midterm. So, very similar to the ones on the quiz that are on the midterm. So definitely watch the week 5 quiz help. It's going to show you how to do the problems. And then when you watch this, you're going to see it again. So you'll be able to see somebody do those problems twice. I already looked at the midterm. There are 25 questions. You have 2 hours to complete it. By the way, don't forget 2 hours is 120 minutes. At the end of 120 minutes, if you don't hit submit, it's going to submit it for you. So you better hit submit and finish it within 120 minutes. The midterm is in WebAssign. What else? You got 2 hours, 25 questions. Every single question in the midterm I looked at. Question 1 I looked at, question 2. And then I found a very similar problem and I put it on here. So if you watch this review, this midterm help, you're going to know exactly what's on the final, on the midterm. You're going to know exactly what's on it. Just some of the numbers are changed, but the same types of problems are on it. So this is a great deal. If you watch this, take notes, you will be ready for the midterm. So here we go. Where are we going? Let's go to question 1. Good. Okay, so by the way, question 1 on the midterm, I didn't put on here because it was like a definition question. If you remember week 1 quiz help, week 1 quiz, there was a question on real numbers, the different types of numbers, natural numbers, and there was a problem that talked about the sets, whether real numbers are within natural numbers or natural numbers are a subset of real numbers. So I do ask you to go back to week 1 homework or quiz and look up the definitions of real numbers and natural numbers, counting numbers, all the different, I think, irrational numbers, imaginary numbers, the different types of numbers, and whether they're within sets of each other, because there's one of the questions on the midterm about that. I just didn't post it on here. If you look here, I posted 21 questions. There are 25 questions on the midterm. There's a couple like repeats where the questions are really similar, so I didn't do them twice. So here is the first question. This looks crazy. This is the order of operations question. Remember order of operations from, and by the way, the midterm is set up where it's pretty much we do week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4. So it's pretty much in order, so hopefully it doesn't confuse anybody too much. So order of operations were, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, if you remember from week 1, parentheses, do what's inside the parentheses. Exponents were the powers. Multiply, divide, add. By the way, I've got 20-some questions, so I'm going to try to go quick. So we're going to do what's inside the parentheses. If you look here, these brackets are parentheses. there are two sets of parentheses here. One here, that this contains one entire parentheses, and it's multiplying. There's an invisible multiply sign between there, and there's the other set. Those brackets contain our parentheses, but it's a group. And so when we do order of operations, we're going to do each one separately, but we're going to do the parentheses within the brackets to begin with. So here we have multiply, here we have add, here we have multiply. Don't forget, multiply and divide you do from left to right, and add and subtract you do from left to right. Here's multiply, here's add, so we do the multiplies first. 4 times 2 is 8, and then we're going to do this multiply. We do all the multiplies inside this before you do the add and subtracts. 6 times 2 is 12. And I'm going to bring down the plus, the 31, and the minus. So we did all the multiply, and don't forget, you do the multiply from left to right. That's why I did this 4 times 2 first, and then the 6 times 2. Now we're going to add and subtract from left to right. By the way, let's do the multiply on the other one. 5 times 7, this is the first multiplier divide I see, 35. And I don't see any other multiply divide. I see a minus 4 and a minus 23. By the way, there's a parentheses here. That means you do what's inside that parentheses first. Okay, so now I'm going to do this parentheses over here, add or subtract from left to right. So the first add or subtract I see is right here. 31 minus 8 is 23, I believe. Yes. Oh, yes, we are. Thank you very much. See? Look how on the ball you are. No, that's perfect. Perfect. Do you see how we have parentheses here? I did the one over there on the other side. I just forgot to see this one. This one contains parentheses, so you have to do what's in this parentheses first. 8 plus 12 is 20, and it actually makes the problem a little easier. Thank you very much. Everybody would have got that one wrong. They all owe you a latte. Okay, so then we're on the other side, and we're going to do 35 minus 4, which is 31. We did that, and then I'm going to bring this minus 23 down. Okay, so does everybody understand what happened there? We had to do what's inside the big, we do what's inside the big parentheses, but you have to do what's inside the inclusive, the smaller parentheses first. 4 times 2 is 8, 6 times 2 is 12. Then you add those together, and we get 20. Now we can add or subtract. 31 minus 20 is 11. I'm keeping the parentheses, and this one we have 31 also. 31 minus 23, I don't know what that equals. I think it equals 8. There we go. And the reason why you keep those parentheses because there's an invisible multiply sign there. So this problem is actually, we're down to the end of it, 11 times 8, and we get 88. Thank you very much for catching that. Who was that? Was that you, Devasha? Okay. Next problem. Any questions on that? We got 20 more to go. Oh, this is not even a problem. I just want you to look up the properties. Remember from the week 1, module 1. Look up all the properties for multiply and divide. I think there's the multiply property of distribution. Know what distribution is? Distribution, sorry. Commutative. Associative. Know what these are. Distribution, commutative, associative properties. They're properties of addition, properties of multiplication. So just read that really quick because there's one question on that in the midterm. It's like a definition question. It's a problem it gives you, and it says which of these properties is the problem using. All righty. 17 minus 28. Ooh, hey, we should have 20 of these questions on the test. By the way, if you don't use a calculator, you better know how to do these really well. I see a lot of people put the wrong answer down for this, so you might want to try a calculator because some people get the sign wrong. Can somebody tell me what 17 minus 28 equals? Type it in, say it, yell it. Negative 11. Some people will actually put positive 11. So just be careful. I mean, if you're unsure about numbers with signs, especially when you're subtracting a higher number than a lower number, this is a positive 17, this is a negative 28. When you have two numbers with different signs, you always subtract. 28 minus 17 is 11, and then you use the sign of the larger number, so the answer is negative. I mean, that's the way I was always taught. But some people, they look at that and they just say, oh, 11. No, be careful. Look at the signs. Use a calculator. You're allowed to. Okay, here's the next problem. It's an order of operations problem also. We have a fraction plus 19. So we're going to do the fraction first. And when we did this, if you remember week 1, we put the parentheses around the top and put the parentheses around the bottom because you have to do the top separate from the bottom. So if we do the top, you see I have multiply, subtract, multiply. Order of operations says multiply, divide before add and subtract. So we're going to do all the multiply first. 3 times 8 is 24. And here's another multiply. 4 times 3 is 12. So this is the top. 24 minus 12. The bottom is 35. 5 times 7 is 35 minus 33. Okay, so here's the top of our fraction. Here's the bottom of our fraction. Our top, 24 minus 12, is 12. Our bottom, 35 minus 33, that's a 33, is 2. My computer's a little slow because I'm recording it 2 different ways. And then don't forget we have the plus 19 after it. So here's our problem. I'm going to put this in my calculator, or I'm just going to divide it. 12 divided by 2, right? Fractions are divided. 12 divided by 2 is 6. So 6 plus 19 is 25, and we are done. So when you approach this problem, do the top, put your answer there. Do the bottom, put your answer there. And then do the math and add 19. Add whatever number they tell you to add. I'm going to erase this real quick just to make sure. What we did here was we got 12. We got 2 from this. 12 divided by 2 was 6. And 6 plus 9 was 15. Is that the answer I got last time? Oh, 19. That's what I was going to say. That I don't recognize that. I didn't recognize that answer. All right. So that's what we did. I can't remember 5 seconds back. Any questions? Just remember the order of operations, parentheses, exponents, multiply and divide from left to right, add and subtract from left to right. Solving for x. You want to get x on one side and everything else to the other. So if we're solving for x, you want to get x on one side, everything else to the other. And I had a really good video on solving for x in the announcement section if anybody watched it. I really do recommend watching those videos that I put in the announcement section again. The rules for solving for x that I put in the announcement section, in this case, it said distribute first. There's no distribution. Then it says add everything together you can on each side of the equal sign. Well, on the right-hand side, x minus 25 cannot be combined, so that stays like it is. But on the left-hand side, I can combine 11x minus 7x because they're both x's. 11 minus 7 is 4x. And then I'm going to add the 5. Okay, so the steps I put for solving for x was combine each side separately. We did that. The next step was get x's. I'm going to put combine here. The next step was x's to one side. You want to get all the x's to one side, and you want to try to keep your x's positive. You can make them negative if you want, but it's easier if you keep them positive. So in other words, I want to take this x to the other side. And when I say that, the step in the video says take x's to one side using add and subtract. This is a positive x. The only way to get it to the other side is subtract x. Subtract x. X minus x is 0. So I'm left with a negative 25 on this side. The 5 stays here, but 4x minus x. Now, once again, a lot of people are in a hurry, and I see a lot of crazy things. Can somebody tell me what 4x minus x equals? Yes. Some people say the answer is 4. No, oh, the x. No. That's if you're dividing by x, the x's cancel. If you're subtracting, don't forget there's an invisible 1 right here. So this is 4x minus 1x, and you get 3x. I see a lot of people do some stuff that aren't the real rules. I mean, if I was dividing it, the x's would cancel, but I'm subtracting it. So 4x minus 1x is 3x. All right, then we need to get the x's by itself. You always do the add and subtract to the other side before you do the multiply and divide. This is opposite of the order of operations. This is the solving step. So do you see this is multiplying times the x. The 3 is multiplying. The 5 is adding. So you always take the adding one to the other side, the adding or the subtracting one to the other side. That's a plus 5, so you have to minus 5 both sides. 5 minus 5 is 0. I am left with 3x equals a negative 30. Once again, your questions on the midterm will be very similar. I just changed a couple of numbers. Now I need to get rid of the 3. It's multiplying. The opposite of multiplying by 3 is dividing by 3. So we're going to divide now. 3 divided by 3 is 1x. Another way of writing 1x is just x. Negative 30 divided by 3 is a negative 10. And there's our answer. Alrighty. Questions on solving for x? I think I'm going to do a couple more. I'm not sure. We'll see when we get there. Okay, plumber. Word problem alert. Word problem alert. People always freak out when they got word problems. No, it's okay. Don't say that. See? Now you're gonna be depressed when you see it. You're gonna have the exact same words on the midterm. The exact same words. The numbers are just gonna be different. So suppose you had a plumbing bill, not including tax, was $125. In other words, my total bill equaled $125. That's what my bill equaled. This included $30 for parts. So we had $30 for parts. I'm going to put here plus 30. 30 for parts. And 5 hours of labor. 5 hours of labor. By the way, why did they tell us 5 hours? Anybody know why they told us that it was a 5-hour job? Because plumbers get paid by the hour. Most people get paid by the hour. So that's what they want to know, your hourly rate. How much is the plumber getting paid every hour? So we know he's going to get paid. He's going to work 5 hours. And every hour he works, he makes a certain amount of money. I'm going to put 5x, right? X is the amount of money he makes for each hour. If he makes $20 in 1 hour, then he worked 5 hours. He gets 5 times 20. So this is how much he's going to charge. When he goes to the job, he says, I'm charging you per hour. So he goes in the other room and watches TV for a couple of hours. So he worked 5 hours. We don't know how much he's making per hour. That's what we're trying to find out. But we do know also that he charged $30 for the parts, right? So he's going to get 5 hours of pay plus $30 for the parts. When we paid him, we paid $125. So this is what the problem looks like. 5x plus 30 equals $125. And x is the hourly rate, how much he's going to get paid every hour. So we're just solving for x. Just like we did in the last problem. We need to take the 30 to the other side and the 5. Can somebody tell me which one I have to take to the other side? The 5 or the 30 first? The add and subtract, exactly. It's a plus 30, so we're going to minus 30. By the way, that's 125. So we're going to minus 30. 5x equals 125 minus 30, which is 95. Divide both sides by 5, since that's 5 times x. We're going to divide by 5. Five divided by 5 is 1x. And 95 divided by 5, I think is 19. So he gets paid $19 every hour. You know, I don't believe that. I think plumbers get paid a lot more than that. When they come to my house for 20 minutes worth of work, I'm usually paying $200 or $300 or an hour worth of work. So they must be getting paid more than that. This is a cheap plumber. So everybody okay with this problem? I mean, you can watch this video again, but you'll have one very similar to this on the midterm. I can't stress that enough. This is one you had in the homework. In fact, a couple of people commented on it to me. It says solve for f. In other words, I want to get f by itself. I want to take everything to the other side, but get f by itself. So I'm going to rewrite it. Ugh. You're funny, Amy. 5/9. Let me show you how to do it. It's really nice and easy. Piece of cake. So it's 5/9 times this parentheses. So the key here is times the parentheses. Since this is in a parentheses, you cannot take the add and subtract to the other side first. Because if I add 32, I can't because it's in the parentheses. So I cannot take the add and subtract to the other side first. I actually have, because, I mean, you can make it look like this. So you don't see, you can just make it look like this because it's a parentheses. So if you look like this, which one do I take to the other side first? Just take the 5/9 to the other side first. This is how you take a fraction to the other side. You multiply it. I'm going to rewrite this with a little bit more room. C equals 5/9 times f minus 32. And the way you take a fraction to the other side is you multiply it by its reciprocal. You multiply it by flipping it. Flip it. Whatever the fraction is, just flip it upside down. Whatever I multiply this side by, I have to multiply this side by. Same thing. And if you look, 5 times 9 is 45. 9 times 5 is 45. 45 divided by 45 is 1. You see, it cancels out. Everything cancels out. And I'm left with, sorry, I'm running out of room, and I'm writing sideways again. This is what I'm left with. So I have 9/5 C on the left-hand side, and I have F minus 32 on the right-hand side. You see, because this all canceled and turned into 1. 1 times this parentheses is just a parentheses. Now that there's nothing left on the right-hand side, you don't need the parentheses. Now we can take the 32 to the other side, and we can add 32 to both sides. Add 32, add 32. And we end up with F equals 9/5 C plus 32. You can't add a 32 with the C. And there's our answer. So it's really not that bad. By the way, this formula is a real formula. I don't want to say it, but this is the exact problem that's on your midterm. I can't really change the numbers because it would make the problem, it would make the formula wrong. So don't tell anybody else. They have to watch the video. No. So yeah, you guys are going to be pleasantly surprised about this midterm. There you go. Don't just write the answer down. I'm going to erase it right now. Oh, it's too late for you to write it down. Oh. Hey, it's being recorded. You can watch the recording again. It was recorded. By the way, if you're watching the recorded version, you can just hit rewind. All right, next question. It's not there anymore, but if you rewind it, it'll be there. Okay, next question, solving for x. Just like we've been doing, we want to get x on one side, everything else to the other, using the same steps I did. First thing we did was combine everything we can on both sides. X minus 3x. So this is 1x minus 3x. 1 minus 3 is a negative 2x. 1 minus 3 is a minus 2, a negative 2. And then I have a minus 3. On this side, 9x minus 10x. 9 minus 10 is a negative 1x plus 8. By the way, you don't have to write the negative 1. I put it there just so you can see. Negative 1x is the same thing as saying negative x. They both mean the same thing. But I just put it there so we know. Okay, so now we want to get the x's to one side. So we add everything on both sides. Now we want to get, I just saw the wink face. Now we want to get the x's to one side. It does not matter which side you take the x's to. I'm going to take the x's to the left because we'll see what happens when we have a negative x. It's okay. So I'm going to take this minus 1x to the other side. Remember I said get the x's to the other side by adding and subtracting. This is a minus 1, so I'm going to plus 1x. Plus 1x. I left with negative 2x plus 1x is a minus 1x. Now I need to get the minus 1 to the other side and the minus 3. Which one do I take to the other side first? The minus 3. The minus 1 is multiplying. This minus 3 is subtracting the x. So you always take the add or subtract to the other side first. The plus 3, both sides because it's a minus 3. End up with 11 equals a minus 1x. Now you don't, once again, you don't need the minus 1. The 1 part, but you do need the minus. Now, this is not the answer. Some people stop and say the answer is 11. I don't want to know what minus x equals. I want to know what x equals. So I have to get rid of that minus 1. So it might be beneficial to keep the 1 there and just know what's the minus 1 doing to the x. It's actually multiplying. So to get rid of a minus 1, you divide by that same number. You divide by a negative 1. Negative divided by negative is 1. Another way of writing 1x is just 1. 11 divided by a negative 1 is a negative 11. Some people say when you do that, when you just have a negative next to the x, you're just taking the negative to the other side, and that's one way of looking at it. Unless the other side is a negative, then if you're dividing by a negative, negative divided by negative would change it to a positive. So just be careful. I say if you have a negative x, divide both sides by a negative 1, and you'll get your answer. Good, good. Divide by a negative 2. Divide by a negative 2. Negative 2 divided by negative 2 is a positive 1. 10 divided by negative 2 is a negative 5. Yes. Yes. Yes, go ahead. Oh, you mean negative 2. Yeah, you know what? This course, we really haven't had too many fractions, which I'm really happy about. But to do this, you divide both sides by negative 2. You get x here. You do not change it to a decimal. Positive divided by a negative is a negative 11 over 2. Leave it as a fraction. Do not change it as a decimal. Yes. That's why I changed it to a whole even number so it would divide evenly. But if you divided 11 by 2, don't say 5.5. Leave it as a fraction, and it would be negative 11 over 2. Sure thing. So, by the way, everybody who's watching, this was a separate problem. This was a separate problem. They were separate. This was the answer that we got for this particular problem. All right, next question. Solve. This time we're trying to find out what y equals. So we have quite a bit of solving on this test. Each problem that I'm coming up with is on the midterm. So let's take a look. We're going to go through the same. Once again, I really recommend the solving steps that I put down in the announcement section, the different ways of solving for x. In this case, we're solving for y. Make sure you watch that video. There's a lot of prep, I guess, before a midterm. You guys got a lot of stuff to do. And I know you guys have a lot of extra other classes, too. But this one's the most important. Is anybody taking... I talked to somebody yesterday that was taking 6 classes. How do you take 6 classes at once? That's insane. All right, so solving for x. The step 1, taking 5. You're close, but that's not 6. Maybe a lab. Maybe she was taking a couple labs or something. Yeah, 2 is enough. So on this problem, remember my steps were add everything you could on both sides separately. On the right-hand side, I can't add 2y and 5, so I leave it there. On the left-hand side, 6y plus 1y is 7y. 7y. And then we have a plus 30. Okay, now I need to get all the y's to one side. It's easier if you take the 2y over there because you'll have a positive. Minus 2y minus 2y. It's a plus 2y, so we're going to subtract 2y. Left with 5y plus 30 equals 5. Now we need to get the y by itself by taking the 5 and the 30 to the other side. Yeah, where do you live, Amy? I'm in Texas, in San Antonio, and we're getting storms too. Oh, wow, Tampa. Okay, I'm in Texas. We're getting a few storms also. It's being recorded, so you're good to go. Everywhere, I guess. So we're going to take the 30 to the other side. It's a plus 30, so we're going to minus 30. Minus 30. Dallas, Texas. Yeah. There you go. You're 5 hours away from me. 5y equals 5 minus 30 is a negative 25. Now I just need to get rid of the 5. It's multiplying. The only way to get rid of it is divide. Divide. 5 divided by 5 is 1y. Negative 25 divided by 5 is a negative 5. And there's my answer. Y equals a negative 5. All right. Oh my God. Hey, that's not bad. 37 minutes and we're halfway there. Now that we know where everybody's from. Never been to Kansas. I don't think I've ever been to Kansas. Okay. Oh, I didn't bring graph paper. Let's see. So I'll create some graph paper. It just says graph this. I mean, by the way, this is really important. A lot of people get caught up in the words of each question. There's a lot of words to this question. You know, I just didn't copy and paste all the words or type them up. Their words might be graph this using the intercepts, or find 2 points and graph this. You can graph this any way you want. You know, if it says solve by using the substitution method later on, or solve by using the elimination method, you don't have to solve by using the elimination method. If the substitution method is easier, use that. Nobody's watching you how you solve it. So on these problems, solve it any way you can. That might, you know, just make sure you find the answer any way you can without cheating. You know, you don't have to use the method they're trying to tell you to do. Now, if you were in classroom and writing this on paper, yeah, you would have to do that because it's being graded that way. So solve it any way you can. I noticed 36 is divisible by 12 and 4. So I'm going to use the I'm going to use, I think I'm going to use the x-intercept method. So if it asks find the find the intercepts, that's one way of doing this problem. Because 12 goes into 36 evenly and 4 goes into 36 evenly, I can use that method. Or you can just find any 2 points, you know, any 2 x and y's that you can come up with. So I'm going to use the x-intercepts. Here's x and y. I'm going to use a t-table. First, I'm going to put a 0 into the x. If I put a 0 into the x, I need to find y. 12 times 0 is 0. So I'm just left with 0 plus 4y is 4y. If I divide both sides by 4, y equals 36 divided by 4 is 9. Do you see, if I put a 0 and a 9 in here, 12 times 0 is 0, plus 4 times 9 is 36. 36 equals 36. So I have one good point. A point is any x and y that equals 36. So 0, 9 works. Next, I'm going to put a 0 in the y. So I'm going to go 12x plus 4 times 0 equals 36. 4 times 0 is 0. So 12x equals 36. Divide both sides by 12. I'm just solving for x, what we've been doing this whole time. And x equals 3. You see, if I put a 3 in here, 12 times 3 is 36, and a 0 in there, 36 plus 0 is 36. These are my 2 points. One at 0, 9, that's right here. Right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And the other one at 3, 0. Then I draw my line, and I'm good to go. That's all we need to do. You have to put 2 points on the graph, and then connect those dots with a line in it, and you're good to go. Questions? Now, you didn't have to use, by the way, there are other points I could have used. Let me show you. If you didn't realize it, I don't want to. I guess I'll erase everything. I could have used these points. If x is 1, I could have used y is 6. just because I'm visually looking at it. Do you see if I put a 1 in there, 12 times 1 is 12, and I put a 6 in 4, 4 times 6 is 24, 12 plus 24 is 36. I could have used 1, it doesn't matter what points you used. I could put 2. 2 times 12 is 24. 24 plus 12 is 36. The only way to get 12 out of that would be a 3 in there. So y is 3. 2 and 3 work. If I put a 2 and a 3 in there, I get 36. So the points I created, 3, 0, and 0, 9 are not the only points. You could have used this point, you could have used this point, you could have used any 2 of these points, you would have been good to go. All right? Graph this linear equation. So I need to graph this. Can somebody tell me what the line looks like if I graph this? By the way, this was the discussion question for that week. I don't know if it was week 2 or week 3, but this was the discussion question. Can somebody tell me what this graph looks like? It's not a dot. Be careful, Devonshay. I keep on. Is it Devonshay or Devonsha? Devonsha. I'm so bad with names. Say your name one time. Devonsha. Devonshay. Okay. I think that's what I said first. Okay. So this, no, Amy, it's not parallel. It's not a dot. Can somebody tell me what this looks like when you say parallel? I don't know what parallel means. Anybody else? There we go. X equals -8. Go to -8. Here's x -8. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is x -8. Put a dot there, and then you have to draw a line. But it has to go through. The only x it can go through is -8. So the only way you can draw this line is vertical. If you draw it horizontally, it's going through more x's. So it's a vertical line. X equals is a vertical line. If you remember our discussion, I think it was for week 2, we had to say what does a vertical line look? I mean, what's the equation for a vertical line? What's the equation for a horizontal line? Now this, if I said y equals 2 and ask for the equation for that, to graph that, y equals 2 is a horizontal line. You go to y2, y1, 2, put a dot there, and the only y the graph can go through is y2. There we go. That's the only y. This is y2. It's a horizontal, and x equals is a vertical line. I already wrote vertical. Okay, anything that says y equals by itself with no other x, it's a horizontal line. If it says x equals, it's a vertical line. Parallel lines are when we have the same slope. We'll see if I don't even know if we're going to have an equation like that, a problem like that. Parallel lines are when the slopes equal each other, when they both have the same slope, when both equations have the same slope. All right, next question. We're halfway done. Find the coordinates of 2 points of the given line and then use the coordinates to find the slope. If the answer is undefined, enter undefined. So yeah, don't worry about all those words yet. Just graph the line. It says we're going to just graph the line. And if you notice, once again, I like this question. If I have 2 points, if not 2 points, but a 2 and a 5, they both divide into 10. So I know I can use the x and y intercepts. I can put a 0 in for x and then a 0 in for y and find the 2 points. If I put a 0 in for x, then I left with 5y equals 10. Divide both sides by 5, and I get y equals 2. You see, I end up with y equals 10 divided by 5 is 2. Now, if I put a 0 into the y, 2x plus 5 times y. That turns to 0. I'm just left with 2x equals 10. Divide both sides by 2. And I get x equals 5. So here are my 2 points, 0, 2. And the other one is 5. Here's 5 way over here. 5, 0. This is 5, 0. And this one is 0, 2. Connect the dots and we're good to go. Alrighty. Next question. Graph the linear equation by finding the x and y intercepts. So that's exactly what we just did in the last 2 graphing problems. I hope that we might just have 3 of these same problems on the quiz, something similar. Once again, do you see how 7 and 6, 7 times 6 is 42. So 6 divides into 42 and 7. So if I want to graph this, I can put a 0 in for x. If I put a 0, oh, this is a little different. Put a 0 in for x. I end up with negative 6y equals 42. Divide both sides by the negative 6. And I get y equals negative 7. 42 divided by a negative 6 is a negative 7. Yeah, it all means, everything we just read means the same thing. But the key to this is graph it. So just try to graph it. You just find any 2 points. You know, you need to find 2 coordinates, 2 things that x and y, when you plug it in here, it equals 42. That's all you need to do. Find 2 things when you plug it in there, it equals 42. If I put a 0 in here and a negative 7, negative 6 times negative 7 is a positive 42. Then I'm going to put a 0 into y and see what happens. 7x minus 6 times y. I'm going to put a 0 into y. This ends up being 0, so I'm left with 7x equals 42. When I divide both sides by 7, I end up with x equals 6. So there are my 2 points. I just have to graph. 0, negative 7 is down here. That is 0, negative 7. And then 6, 0 is over here. Make sure you know how to find those points. Right? First you go on the x-axis, and then you go down negative 7. X-axis 0, then down negative 7. So here on this one, you go x-axis 6, and then here the 0 means up or down 0. Then connect the dots, and we're good to go. We're zooming through these now. Zooming! Use the graphing approach to determine whether a system is consistent and system is inconsistent, or the equations are dependent. If the system is consistent, find the solution set of the graph it. If the system is dependent, I mean, yes, I know the words, but graph this and see what happens. Okay, so let's graph this. I need to graph both lines. So I need 2 points for the top equation, and I need 2 points for the bottom equation. 2 coordinates. 2 coordinates for the top equation, 2 coordinates for the bottom equation. Can somebody give me a coordinate for the top equation? Can somebody tell me an x and a y that equals 0 that will make the top equation, equal to 0? Can anybody just look at it and tell me? Yeah, both zeros. Thanks, Amy. Does everybody see on the top equation, if I make x 0 and y 0, remember the coordinate x is first, y is second. If I put a 0 here and a 0 here, 3 times 0 is 0. 0 plus 0 is 0. That's good. So I have 1. Now I just need 1 more. Somebody tell me a number, any number. Somebody click on a number. type a number in. Any number you want. 2. Why didn't you just type in 1? 1 would be so much easier. I said type in one number. That means 1. You could have typed in 2. I'm going to use 2. Since Amy typed in 2 first, I'm going to use 2. So I'm going to put a 2 into the x. If I put a 2 into the x, 3 times 2 is 6. Can somebody tell me what y has to equal? If this is 6, y has to equal -6. Do you see? So you can plug any number you want into x. And Amy said 2. So 3 times 2 is 6. I have to make it equal to 0. So 6 plus a -6 gives me 0. So here's my points for the top equation. I have 2 points. I'm trying to get it. There we go. Got it. All right, so there's my points for the top equation. I think the bottom equation might be a little bit more difficult because the 7 is odd. Can anybody look at it and find one quick point? Let's see if you can find one quick point. Anybody see an x and a y? That will, if I put an x and a y in there, I get -7. How about this? I'm going to change my color. 1 and 3? Oh, you're close, Amy. But you're close. Amy said 1 minus 2 times 3. That's 1 minus 6. That does not equal -7. But you're close. -1, -3 is... Say that again? Yeah, but by the way, your correction is wrong also. If I watch... wait. I want to show you. You're on the right track. If I put a -3 in here and a -1, -2 times -3 is a +6. Henrietta, I'm going to get to yours next. So, Amy, yours would be correct if you typed in -1, 3. So you would just keep on trying until you got it. Watch what I do, Amy. We put -1 into x minus 2 times 3. First, you always do the multiplying first. This -2 times 3 is -6. -1 minus 6 is a -7. So -1 and 3 work. Okay? Do you see how we got that, Amy? Okay, so Henrietta said 2 and 4 first. Let's see if that works. Henrietta puts 2 into x and then 4 into y. 2 times 4 is -8. 2 minus 8 is -6. Oh, we're a little off. 3 and 5. Oh, 3 and 5 worked. Henrietta's second one, she put a 3 into x and a 5 into the y. -2 times 5 is -10. 3 minus 10 is a -7. So experiment. Put a number in into the x or the y, and then find your answer. By the way, in this problem right here, what do we put in? Oh, we put a +5 in there, right? Yeah, 3 and 5. By the way, I would have put a number into y first. Like if I put a number 2 into y. 2 times 2 is, that would have been a -4. Then I could have took the -4 to the other side by adding 4. And I would have got a -3. -3, 4 would have also worked. So you could plug different numbers in there and solve and get your answer. So now I'm going to graph these. If I have a little room left, I'm going to graph them. Here's my graph paper. I'm going to graph the top one in red, 0, 0. And 2, -6 is down here. So there's the first line. Then the second equation I'm going to graph in blue. -1, 3 is somewhere around there, I guess. I don't know. It'd be better on graph paper. And then 3 and 5. 1, 2, 3, and 5 is somewhere around there. And when I connect those dots, it says use a graphing approach to determine whether the system is consistent, system is inconsistent, or the equations are dependent. If the system is consistent, find the solution set. So if there is a solution, if the two lines cross, then there is an answer. That means it is consistent. And so find the solution set. The solution set is where they cross. So you have to find the x and y. Unfortunately, I can't tell where they cross because my graph is kind of crazy. I can't tell. -2, 6. Let me see. -2, 6. No, that's not it. Yeah, I actually can't tell. Wherever they cross, that's the solution. So you have to, you'll be able to physically see it on your paper, the x and y. If I put this on graph paper, I could have saw where they actually cross. This is a really rough graph. But the solution set is where they cross. They're consistent if the graph crosses and you have one solution. If it's inconsistent, if the two lines do not cross each other, they're going to cross each other somewhere if they're consistent. If they're inconsistent, they don't cross. In other words, the two lines are parallel if they're inconsistent, if they never cross each other. Okay, so something very similar. We're finding the solution set. If you remember in our discussion, which method do you like better? You can find the solution by graphing. That's what we just did. Or you can find the solution using the elimination method. Or you can find the solution in the next problem using the substitution method. So there's kind of 3 ways you can find these solutions. I'm going to use the elimination for this problem right now. But don't forget, when you approach these problems, you can find the solution any way you can. Now, the graphing one, you might have to show the graph. So you're probably going to have to use a graphing method. But this one, you can use the substitution method if you feel more comfortable. So I'm going to use the elimination method. That means I need to get the x's or y's the exact same. Uh-oh, my pen's not writing. Oh, there it goes. There's a delay. You need to get the x's or the y's exactly the same, but different signs. I'm going to multiply the top row. Can somebody tell me what I have to multiply the top row by? I'm going to use the elimination method. And by the way, I'm going to eliminate the y's. Yeah, thank you, Henrietta. Do you see how one of these is positive, one of these is negative for the y's? So I really like that because now I just need the numbers to be the same. And since the top number is 1, all you have to do is multiply the top by 3, and then the y's will be the same with different signs. So I'm going to multiply each term on top by 3. 6 times 3 is 18x. 3 times a negative y is a negative 3y. And then 3 times 7 is 21. I'm not going to do nothing to the bottom. You might have to multiply the bottom if you can't get them to match up. So you do get them to match up. But we don't have to because this is what we end up with. You see, now the y's are the same, which is good. The y's are the same, opposite signs. So using the elimination method by addition, we add these up. You can only add them if you have the same x's or the same y's with opposite signs. So 18 plus 5 is 23x. 3y plus 3, minus 3 plus 3 is 0. And 21 minus 21 is 0. Ooh, interesting. I need to get the x by itself. So I'm going to divide both sides by 23. 23 divided by 23 is 1x. 0 divided by 23 is 0. Right? I'm looking for my solution. I'm looking for the x and the y. I found the x. X is 0. Now I have to find the y. So the second part of elimination is we have our answer for x. Plug it in any one of these questions over here, any one of these problems. It doesn't matter which one you pick. Except my pen's not working. Are you guys hearing me okay? Just want to make sure you're hearing me okay. Can you hear me? Testing 1, 2, 3. Oh. Are you guys hearing me okay? Testing 1, 2, 3. Yeah, that's what I thought. I see there's a really big delay. Are we okay now? Everybody okay now? Okay, good. Yeah, I noticed there was a big delay. Oh, I know why. Oh, God, I hate to change my internet right now. I wonder if I could do it. I might. I have a faster internet, and I'm not using the fast part. I'm using the slow part. Yeah, I better not change it. I might get disconnected. All right. Yeah, I'm using the slow part of the internet, and I just realized it. Okay, so x is 0. I want to use either one of these equations. Pick any one. I'm picking the bottom, and I'm going to plug 0 into the x. And find out what y equals. 5 times 0 is 0. I'm left with 3y equals negative 21. Divide both sides by 3. Oh, you're close, Henrietta. Be careful. There we go. Negative divided by a positive is a negative. The signs will get a lot of people on this. And I say always check your answer on a calculator. Type in a negative 21 divided by 3, and you get negative 7. So just make sure you're checking your answer each time. So my answer is x is 0, y is negative 7, and that's my solution set. Yes. That's what do you? Oh, the set bracket. No, I don't think so. No, for the homework, for this type of problem, no, not for this type of problem. I mean, our solution is a coordinate, and this is how you write the coordinate. You x and y with parentheses, not with the and not with anything else. This is how you write the coordinate. Now, if we have others, no, yeah, even the ones where you had x, y, and z, you still use, unless that was given to you already. But no, you don't have to add anything else in there. Just make sure you have the parentheses and then a comma between the numbers. So now we're going to use the substitution method. Can somebody tell me why the substitution method is preferred in a problem like this? Why is the substitution method preferred in a problem like this? And I mean, if you compare it to last problem, it's the substitution method is not preferred. I would not use the substitution on this one. I could, but I mean, it's not preferred. Yes, thank you, Chelsea. Because we have y equals. If y is by itself, then we have y equals, and we could substitute y for 2x plus 13. So that's why the substitutions method. In other words, everywhere we see y in the top equation, 2x plus 3 times y. So I'm going to put a big gap here for y equals negative 9. Because I have y equals, whatever y equals, I'm going to actually put into the y there. I'm just substituting whatever y is into the y. That's why it's called substitution. And I'm going to put the 2x in a different color, 2x plus 13 in there. And if you notice now, we have all x's in this equation, so I can solve for x. And before you can solve for x, you have to distribute. Distribute means multiply a number outside of a parentheses to each term in it. 3 times 2x is 6x. 3 times 13 is 39. And there was a 2x in front of it. Okay, we distributed. Now we're going to add everything on both sides. 2x plus 6x is 8x. I'm going to get the 39 to the other side. By the way, I really messed this problem up. I just threw some numbers in there. I think I threw the wrong numbers in there. Because I'm going to, oh, maybe I didn't. Oh, yeah, maybe I didn't. Minus 39, minus 39. I didn't. I think I'm okay. I'm okay. 8x equals a negative 48. I thought the answer was going to be a fraction. I divide both sides by x. I divide both sides by 8, sorry. And 48 divided by 8, positive divided by negative is a negative. So I get a negative 6 for x here. Yeah, it works out nice and pretty. Oh, so if x is negative 6, I still have to find y. Plug this 6 into any equation. Might as well plug it into this one. Y equals 2 times x is negative 6 plus 13. Do you see how nice and pretty it is? It's going to tell you what y equals. Y equals 2 times negative 6 is negative 12. And negative 12 plus 13 is 1. So my answer is x is negative 6, y is 1. Alrighty. I have 4 more problems to do. Hang in there. Hey, isn't there a little, I thought there was an icon that you can actually clap. Oh, did you find it? I thought there was. Oh, there's the little smiley faces. I got a happy stat. I'm not sure how that works. There, I got a happy face next to my name. What else can I do? Oh, here's the applause status. There, that's the applause status. See, up by, if you look at it up by my name, up there, up there. There we go. Tammy found it. Anyway, going to the next question. Solve this. So you can solve this any way you want using elimination, substitution, or graphing. The easiest way to solve this, and I think we had one in the quiz help video last week, is to get rid of the fractions first. Can somebody tell me what I have to multiply the top by to get rid of the fractions? I talked about it last week. 6. Thank you, Tammy. You look at the bottoms of the fractions. The way you do it is look at the bottom. What's the common denominator? 2 times 3 is 6. So both 2 and 3 go into 6. So just multiply each of these by 6. Watch what happens when I'm... By the way, you have to multiply everything by 6, even the number on the other side by 6 when you do this. The whole row by 6. 2 goes into 6 3 times, so I'm left with 3 times 1x, which is 3x. 3 goes into 6 2 times, so I'm left with 2 times 1, which is a minus 2y. And then 4 times 6 is 24. So that's my top. When I multiply everything by 6, that's what I get. And the bottom is going to be x plus 4y equals negative 20. Okay, how do you want to solve this? Using substitution or elimination? Elimination. If you would have said substitution, I would say that's fine. But I'm using elimination. Do you see how the y's have a plus and a minus? And if I multiply the top by 2, that it's real easy. If I multiply the top by 2, it's real easy because then I'll have a negative 4y, and that's nice and pretty. So I'm going to do 2 times 3, and I get 6x. 2 times the negative 2, negative 4y. And 2 times 24 is a positive 48. The bottom I'm going to leave exactly as I see it because my y's will cancel out when I add them now. Wait, that's a plus. When I add these, I get 7x. 6x plus 1x is 7x. This turns to 0, and this turns to 28. 48 minus 20 is 28. Divide both sides by 7. And I get x equals 4. Okay, so I have one answer. X equals 4. I just have to have the y. So if I put a 4 in here, it doesn't matter which equation you use. I'm not using the fraction one. I'm going to put a 4 in the x here. I need to get the 4 to the other side by minusing 4, minusing 4. When I get that, I'm left with 4y equals a negative 20 minus 4 is a negative 24. I divide both sides by 4. And I get y equals negative 6. Sorry, this is getting a little messy. And there's my other answer. So here we cleared the fractions by multiplying by the common denominator. And when we did that, this is what we got down here. Then we recognize that the y's, one's plus, one's minus, and they're multiples of each other. So I only had to multiply the top by 2, and I would have got the same y. So that turned out nice and pretty. And we got our 2 answers, or x and a y. It's one answer, but it's an x and a y of the answer. All right. 19. Okay, so just make a little mental note. There are 2 of these problems times 2. 2 of these problems on the midterm. Very similar. 2 of these problems. This is the week 5 material. This is the week 5 material. You have to do the week 5 homework and watch the week 5 quiz help, where we're not taking a quiz for week 5, that I posted in the announcements section. And once again, I show you how to do that. I might as well do it here also. And there's a really good video on the 6 rules for exponents, rules for powers or exponents. Remember, exponent is a power. These are all powers. So I really recommend watching the video on the 6 rules of exponents. Negative 4. If I have a power outside of a parentheses, you have to attach that power to each term in the parentheses. So the 4 has a negative 4 power. The x squared, I'm sorry, I have a feeling I'm delaying again. The x squared has a negative 4. And the y, negative 5, has a negative 4. You have to attach the negative 4 to each one of these. And you really have to watch that help video. I say that over and over again, that I have in the announcement section on the 6 rules of exponents. Watch that, and it's really going to come to light, everything here. Power raised to a power, one of the rules that I show you in that video is you just multiply those, and I end up with x to the negative 8. This is 4 to the 4th, negative 4. And multiply these 2 together. Negative 5 times negative 4 is y to the positive 20. Negative times a negative is a positive. So this is what I get. However, the rules of exponent says negative numbers are not allowed on the top of a fraction. By the way, if you want to, everything's on top. If you want to make it a fraction, you make it like this. Am I breaking up again, people? Yeah, I'm going to try. Okay. I think I want to try to switch, but I'm almost done. I hate to try to switch and then lose contact and everything gets destroyed. Um, anyway, the negative power rule. So this is all into a fraction. I mean, this is everything that's on top of a fraction. That's why I put it over 1. The negative power rule says if you have a negative power, you have to flip it. So watch that video. It says the 4 gets flipped. It was on top. Now the 4 is on the bottom. The x was on top. Now the x is on the bottom. When you flip it, the negative power disappears. The negative part of the power disappears. The y is positive, so it stays on top. So once again, this is what we're learning this week in the homework. The only thing left in this problem to do is do 4 to the 4th power. You have to actually do that. And 4 times 4 times 4 times 4, or 4 to the 4th power, is 256. X to the 8th, y 20th on top. So this is what your answer would look like. The negative powers that you have, flip the whatever the power is sitting on to the bottom, and then the negative sign disappears. And we're only talking about negative powers, not a negative number. Not a negative number. A negative power will flip it to the bottom. Or if it's on the bottom, it'll flip it to the top. And you have 2 of these. So I really recommend watching the help video for the quiz help and for the 6 rules of exponents. I really recommend watching it. Question 20. Once again, this is on the work this week, and I did this problem on the quiz help video for week 5, even though we're not taking a quiz. It's and by the way, there's a word missing, and this is really important. The word is subtract. Now, add this word if you're writing down this problem because it has to be here. It says subtract 7x3 plus x squared plus 6 from 9x squared minus x minus 3. So there has to be a subtract in front of this problem. Now, if I ask you guys this, subtract 5 from 10, how would you write the problem? Don't write the answer. Subtract 5 from 10. How would you write the problem? Exactly. Do you see? You're subtracting 5 from 10. The minus 5 has to come after the 10. That's really important. When I'm subtracting 5 from 10, the minus 5 comes after. So in this problem, if I'm subtracting 7x3 plus x squared plus 6, that has to come after. I'm subtracting, and I'm going to put it in parentheses. 7x3 plus x squared plus 6 from 9x3 minus x minus 3. I'm subtracting all of that from the other one. I'm subtracting all of it. So in this, and by the way, you have to have a parentheses around the part you're subtracting because you are subtracting each of these terms. In other words, you have to distribute this subtraction. It's like it's an invisible minus 1. I'm subtracting the 7, I'm subtracting the 1x squared, and I'm subtracting the 6. Negative 1 times 7 is a negative 7x3. Do you see when you subtract it, it changes it to a negative. Negative 1 times 1 is a negative 1x squared. Negative 1 times 6 is a negative 6. You're changing the sign of each of those when you subtract it. And I still have x3 minus x minus 3. Now I can combine these terms. And you can only add x3s with x3s, x squares with x squares. 9x3 minus 7x3 is 2x3, right? 9 minus 7 is 2x3s. I need to do the x squares now. There are no x squares other than this, so I'm just putting that part of my answer. You can't subtract x squares from x3s. They're not the same. So there's only one x squared. By the way, there's only one x also, x to the 1 power, so you have to put that separate. And then I have a minus 3 and a minus 6. Negative 3 and a negative 6 is a minus 9. And I'm done. You cannot add these because they're all different terms. You can only add numbers in front when the terms are the same. It's like adding 2x plus 2x. The x's have to be the same. You cannot add 2x plus 3y. The numbers, the stuff after the number is different. So you can only add like terms. That's when the stuff after the number is the same, you can combine those and add those. 2 more questions. All this is distribution, and you have to watch the 6 rules of exponents. I can't keep on going over that. Watch that video. It's going to come in handy. I have to multiply this times this, just like this. First, I'm going to multiply negative 4a squared b. I'm going to put it in parentheses. I'm going to multiply it times 7 ab squared. Then I'm going to multiply negative 4a squared b times a negative 9a3. So we're multiplying the negative 4a squared b times each of those terms. Here I get negative 4 times 7 is negative 28. Now the question is, what do I get when I multiply a squared times a? See, you can only multiply a's with a's. A squared times a. There's an invisible 1 here, and the rules of exponents that I show is you have to, when you multiply the a stays the same. You add the powers. So 2 and 1 is 3. Even though we're multiplying, the a stays the same. You add the power. That's why that video on the 6 rules of exponents in the announcement section is really important. B to the 1 power times b to the 2 power is b to the 3 power. Next, negative 4 times negative 9. Negative times a negative is a positive 36. A squared times a3 is a to the 5th power. And then b times nothing there is just b. There's no other thing there, so we leave the b there. This is it. We are done. So problem 21, you just distribute, and you have to look at your rules of exponents in the 6 rules of exponents in that help video. I can't stress it enough. The last problem on the midterm, and actually not the last problem on the midterm, but it's pretty close to it. The last problem is one that we did already when I said we had 2 of them. This one right here. The last problem actually looks kind of like that. So the last problem we're doing is this one. Put this in scientific notation. So this is really important. Scientific notation looks like this. Blank dot blank 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 times 10. Now, they don't show the times, but they do put a 10, and then they write a power. Times 10 to a certain power. And I'm going to put times 10 to a certain power, and I'm going to put a little blank here for our power. So we have to change this number to make it look like this. This is scientific notation. Now, you can only have one number to the left of the decimal. You can only have 1 through 9 in this spot. No zeros. You cannot have 0 in that last spot. It has to be 1 through 9. The way to do this is first find the decimal for this number. Can somebody tell me where the decimal goes for 2,470? Where is the decimal? I don't see one. Yeah, the decimal is after the 0. Devonshea, you better be careful. You have the right idea. You have the right idea, but I'm going to show you where you went wrong. So there's the decimal. I have to move the decimal to where I only have one number to the left of it. Do you see? I have 1, 2, 3, 4 numbers to the left of the decimal. I have to, so I'm going to move it one spot here, one spot here, one spot here. So I just changed my number to 2470. 2, 4, 7. And by the way, if you have a 0 for the last one, since it's insignificant, it doesn't matter. You don't actually have to even put it there. I don't think they would mark it wrong if you put it there, but a 0 at the end is really, it's called insignificant, and you don't need it. You need a 0 in the middle or anywhere else, but you can't have it at the end. So this is how I did it, 2.47. Can somebody tell me how many spots I moved my decimal place? That's the number I put up here. That's the number. I moved it 3 spots to the left. That's the number I put up there. Now, Devonshé, if you move the decimal, from the original problem, we moved it to the left. That means you put a positive number up here. You're thinking of this, and you're really close. If I had this number, 2470, and I have to change it to scientific notation, I'm moving the decimal to the right 2 spots. 2.47. So if you move the decimal to the right, then you put a negative there. So if you move the decimal to the right, it has to be a negative number as a power. But if you move it to the left, it's a positive number for a power. So you have the right idea. It's just depending on which way you move the decimal. All right. Well, that is the midterm, everybody. I say watch this video again. Watch the help videos in the announcement section. Do the homework for week 5. Don't worry about the quiz. No matrix questions. Nope, 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 nope. No matrix questions. Exactly what we just did is what's on the final. I keep on saying final. On the midterm. Exactly what we just saw. So if anybody has any questions throughout the week, you can email me or call me. I'll have this video ready probably by tomorrow. It's going to take a long time to process. Let me know if anybody